Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of What's the Buzz, Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Here I am with Mary Ann Thomas. We have Angela, who's my co-host this evening, while Angelo's out of town on his vacation. Well needed vacation, right? I am here with Mary Ann Thomas.
Howard.
She Mary Ann Howard. See, he corrected me on that one. He put Thomas on there. No. We have you here tonight. Thank you so much for hosting it with me tonight. I
Oh, you're
really
so
appreciate it.
welcome. Not a
Uh,
problem.
Thank you. We have you actually have a few other books as I hear. We have Shadow of a Baseman. Is with you and actually your other co-author.
Mhm.
She is not feeling well, I hear. So we
That's
have you
correct.
tonight. We're going to be discussing Paul McCartney. And actually, oh, there's one of the books. Thank you so
Yeah,
much
wait
for
a minute. Where
showing
am I
that.
at? Without the light and the
There
glare.
you go.
Yeah.
And here to discuss his death or so called not death or conspiracy theory and maybe murder.
Murder.
Murder? There you go. I have a feeling it was a murder case. You
Yeah.
want to go ahead and start us off on how you discovered your interest in Paul McCartney?
Oh my God. Well, I discovered my interest in Paul McCartney when I was like 6 years old. So the Ed Sullivan Show was the first for me. Um, First crush, first whatever. First album. Meet the Beatles was my first album. So just like any of the other screaming children that were out running around chasing the Beatles, I wish I could have been, but I was 6 and I'm in the States.
All right.
So there's none of that, none of the mayhem. But yeah. Um, so progression, the Beatles were always with me. Um, I lost 2 friends within a month of each other when I was 12. One was my best friend who we used to play. We were married to the Beatles with. And the Beatles, I mean, they were always there. It was a consistent through my losses or through the good times and the bad. So, as some people may who follow me and know my story know, I lost my son-in-law and my daughter 5 years ago for my son-in-law and 3 years ago for my daughter. And it was another rock my world. And of course, the Beatles. But that's when I realized that Paul was also gone. And that was just, it was double whammies, losing a child is one thing, is hard enough. It's very hard. And I wasn't going to go there. But yeah, it was one of my son-in-law's friends who taught him how to play. Her husband taught him how to play guitar and whatever. And so she called me and said, Ryan reminded me so much of Paul. And it was funny because when Megan first had me listen to his music, he also was a composer and a writer and had a band in Philadelphia. I thought he sounded British, but I never put it together with Paul. So that was sort of a little oddity. So we have characters in the books that we had to introduce to tell the story. And Ryan Wilson is the character in the book that is the detective
Yes, from
who
Scotland Yard.
investigates his
Hmm.
murder
Yes.
and is my son-in-law's name. So yeah, we use them, and Megan is my daughter, is Paul's romantic interest.
Interest, yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
we're honoring them all.
I could not put that book down. I was like staying up till like midnight. And I was like, I gotta go to work at 5 o'clock. I gotta get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, but I can't put this book down. I have to find out what happens next. And I was like, okay, he's gonna put with please no Yoko. Oh, please just keep on going the romantic story. Please come
No,
on.
Yoko.
And I was like, okay, what's gonna happen next? And yeah, and I was like, okay, Paul is such a wonderful character. He's so loving and giving. I love that you did that
We
about that.
have both been immersed in research for 10 years, me for 4 now. And we've watched so many videos. We have so many, I mean, I have a ton of books sitting here on my table and videos I have 18 hours of video that I was blessed to get from a friend who knew Ryan. And he also was a bass player who had a connection to the Beatles through a person. So I have 18 hours of uninterrupted film, um, that's actual, not changed, not manipulated, because they're changing and manipulating so many pictures, and so many videos these days, just so they can keep the
I
show going, you know?
Right. I love how you put the part in the book how they used to prank him all the time about his bass guitar, how they used to tune it up before
Oh my,
each
but
show.
that's something they did.
I love that
There's
part.
little things like this, you know, people will
Mhm.
sit there and say, oh, well, I don't believe that Paul was replaced. I don't believe
No.
he's dead. But if you're still a Beatles fan, there is
Mhm.
so many Beatles anecdotes in there, and the little funny things that they did in the stories. And, you know, that's, they're
Mhm.
all in there for people to become from, oh, my cute little puppy there.
Yes, I got my producer doing that for me. Yeah, and
Yep. So, and Shadow Dancing Rise of a Bassman was
oh,
the,
look
is
at
the
that
sequel to
little
this
one.
one.
Mhm.
So it's a series that we're
Mhm.
doing on the whole. Started out doing the first book, and then that just led us into the next. And meanwhile, we wanted to do a nonfiction. We've been working on that one. Anne had already had started that book before I even met her, and it's still in the process because there's so much information. But you get so wrapped up in these,
Yes.
the fictional books, that the nonfiction sort of keeps taking a back burner.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And
we've
it's the
decided to go through the years, and it's
mhm.
not even like, I think Angelo thinks we're still doing a trilogy. We're
Mhm.
actually doing a series that it's going to go
So probably book 5,
all
book
through the
6.
years, and
Mhm.
we're trying to grow up the characters,
Mhm.
but get like the second book we hit into, which that's the second book is this one, Shadow Dancing.
Yes.
This one.
I have that one. Actually, I was going to be starting that one next, and I want everybody to know that you could get it on Amazon, but the best thing to do is actually buy the book because there's nothing like turning the pages.
I love turning
Me
pages.
too.
My family got me an e-reader, I don't know, a long time ago. And
Yes.
it's like, I can't take it outside. I
Mm-mm.
can't flip the pages.
I know there's nothing like
There's no
turning the
marker
pages.
in there.
Mhm.
So yes, you can get it on Amazon, and get the Kindle, get the ebook, or the paperback, but I prefer reading it as well.
What was your best part in the researching the book? What was your
Well, the
favorite?
book just didn't, we didn't really research the book. It just sort of flowed to us. I was on with Angelo before where we were talking, um, how Annie and I met. And then when we decided to write, we just sort of started, and it was like we would discuss the chapter that was coming up next. And we would just keep going back and forth and adding bits here and there. Like, uh, Angelo knows, he was the one that steered me into the 1980s synchronicity where, you know, Paul's fingerprints didn't match because
Yes.
Billy isn't Paul, and
Oh,
they
when he
are
got arrested in Japan. I
in
remember
Japan.
that part. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And it happened that I was watching his show when he was talking about his story of hearing Denny Lane actually telling him that the Beatles, or the Beatles, that Paul
Mhm.
was gone, and Paul McCartney was, fingerprints weren't matching in Japan, and that's why he was in jail so long.
Yes.
So until they could get him out. Meanwhile, that was a part of the show where, in the book that I was like writing at the time.
I love that part of the book where you put when Connie told him says, "Oh well, his fingerprints don't match. He's in jail. He's in Japan," and
And
John
everybody let
says,
out a hey,
"Yeah,"
yay.
and he says, "I don't care, honey. Let's go to bed, sweetheart." And I was like, "Yes, you go, John." He's
Yeah.
like, he didn't care.
We we Connie is there again, we're using characters, we're
Mm-hmm.
using our family friends. Connie is Anne's best friend up in New York, and
Yes.
she loves John, and her other friend Debbie loves George. So
Yes.
they're their wives.
Mhm.
We didn't want to intrude onto the living, so to
Yes.
speak. So
Yes. And
it just sort of
everyone
fits.
that knows, that wondering what I'm talking about, you have to get this book and the other books that follow to really understand what I'm talking about. Because once you get this book, you do not want to put this book down. Yes, it leaves you
Yeah,
intrigued
that's what
of what's going to
everybody
happen
tells me.
next. Yes,
The people that are reading it, that's what we hear.
especially with when it comes up to the when he's driving home and what happened, and there's no way that he could not drive home safely because he was a safe driver, and especially
No, Paul
when
was a good driver,
yes,
and he liked to drive. He got car sick. A lot of
yes,
people didn't know that he would get motion sick. He didn't really like flying in planes until he actually got to fly one himself. He went up with a pilot, so that was better. But that's like being in the front seat when you're motion sick. These guys were riding in the back seat a lot of times, so I'm sure that was really hard on him. Um, yeah,
and then
he,
especially
he
too
wasn't a bad
where
driver. It wasn't
the
like he didn't wreck his car. He didn't go
no.
through a stoplight and wreck his car because it was raining or a screaming girl. Please.
Right. Or especially if he had a brand new car, he would not, there was no way he would wreck a brand new car, especially
Yeah,
something he just bought. But he
right,
would take care of that like his own little baby.
right,
And
exactly.
then of course if he was involved in a cause, he would especially follow the cause right through the beginning to the end. There was no way he would stop a cause right from the end, from the
Right.
beginning. He would follow
No,
through with
he knew
that.
he knew he had been watching. Um, from what I'm hearing, other stories that are out there that he knew he was being. I mean, obviously he knew
Yes.
because we talk about him knowing and some of the things that happened to him. But I think he was checking his car.
Hmm.
From what I understand, he was checking his car, but you can't always check your car and know what is exactly going to be going on underneath.
Oh, especially also checking his hotel room every time he would go into a hotel room to make sure it wasn't bugged. I remember that as well.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
always making sure, and he always had
Well,
him
they
and
knew they
John.
were being. I think they knew they
Yes.
were being watched, and
Hmm.
that happened when they came to the states. They were
Absolutely.
being watched.
Absolutely. And I think also he always made sure that him and John shared a room no matter what it was. He always made sure that them two were together. I
Yeah,
remember that all the time. And also, as far as his life here in the States compared to him being back home, I know that his family had a lot. They missed him so much. And how did they take that news, that the rumor?
you know what? It's hard to say. I mean, I'm sure they were devastated. I'm sure his
Hmm.
dad. I've lost a child that's an
Yes.
adult, and at about the same age. So Paul was 24, Megan was 26. I understand what their grief and what they were going through.
Yes.
Um, I can't imagine how they to keep this kind of secret, but they had to. And I think the non-disclosure agreements that they are made to take, to
Hmm.
have, and that's a big thing in Hollywood celebrity. No matter where they're at, they have
Absolutely.
non-disclosures. So
It is hard because, especially when you lose someone as you spend all of those years with them and developing bonds and memories, it's hard to
right,
figure out. So, what am I going to do?
yeah, it's sort of weird when you start seeing some of the little hints and clues that they put out there, but then they pull them back at the same time.
And
But the replacement does the same thing.
mhm.
He tells stuff all the time.
Also, there was rumors too that the manager had a lot to do with his death, his murder.
Well, in our book, and we go into Brian's life a little bit. Back then, um, they would say, "Well, we know he's a homosexual, but we don't care," and it was illegal back then.
Hmm.
So um, Brian had a separate life because of that. He was shelling his money over in the Bahamas, for tax evasion. The Crown, I don't know
Hmm.
how that was. It's like 90% of their money went to taxes. 90%. So people kept
Right.
saying, "Well, you guys are millionaires." Well, that's why George turned around in one interview and says, "Well, the Queen, she's a millionaire,"
Right.
and he wrote Taxman out after that. Because there were so I can't even imagine. I can't even fathom the amount of money that they lost. And then Brian negotiated the sell tabs with Beatles spelled backwards, their merchandise
Hmm.
contract for here in the States. They didn't get anything, and we bring it up in the book how their accountants were the ones that enlightened them into the fact that there was something going on. because they had received some minor amount of money. Brian got 10%. The manufacturing company or that company received a lot, and the boys got like a smidge.
Right? They
You
barely
know,
got enough to live on. Exactly.
so yeah, they weren't exactly happy with all they were going through and all these different things. So yeah, Brian was he got caught. They knew he was evading taxes, and he also owed money to the gambling
The
community. He was
gambling.
like
No.
to gamble. So
Mhm.
were these contributing factors? Did Brian have a hand in it? Because we believe Brian is the one that encouraged them to do the MBEs. Um,
Right. And also owed a lot of money to different organizations, of course, that he was belonging to,
right. And
different
that money
gambling
was all
debts.
from them. So,
Yes. Hmm.
Beatles decided they don't want to tour, then what's going to happen to the money, that
Right.
kind of thing.
And he weren't they the biggest money makers for their
They
country?
were. They were the
Yes.
largest, I want to say, export of the crown.
Yes. Yeah, that's what
Largest
I
export.
understand as well. And from them being the biggest money makers, they had to be there and they had to be the ones that were making the most money for that country. Because if not,
Right,
how
right.
was the country was going to be losing a lot of money as well?
Correct. Look who
Hmm.
popped in.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
I just wanted to wish you guys the best of luck. I'm going to get out of here. I'm not going to produce it anymore. You're on your own, kid. You got to figure it out.
Okay.
We have to
All
sometimes
right?
say, okay, we're stopping the show. We got to push a button sometime, right?
No, no, you're good. All right, listen, I just want to make sure you got that Amelia got on her feet okay.
She's
I'm doing
good.
great.
All right, good. Get out of here.
Okay.
He doesn't want us to get out of here. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. But
Angelo
yeah,
is on vacation, everybody. Remember, he's on vacation.
yeah. He's supposed to be on vacation, but he's still wanting to be on the show somehow.
I know how that is because it's like us with writing.
Hmm.
We just keep writing, and it's like, okay, I could be out at the pool. I could be going doing something else.
Right.
And I'm like,
But you get an
I got to
idea.
keep doing. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
an obsession. I got to keep writing.
You can't help it. I mean, if you're going to be somewhere and you get an idea or you see something in front of you, something pops in your head or a little
We
something
get a lot of synchronicities.
yes.
Anne gets a lot of,
Hmm.
dream state downloads. She'll kill me. She takes a shower and she'll have this like, oh yeah, we should do this.
Hmm. Have you ever done
So
that before where you're like daydreaming or you see something and you pass by a sign and you're like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. I need to stop somewhere and write this down real quick?
no, I haven't done that. I okay. So first off, we started writing this during the
Hmm.
the C
Oh,
vid.
yes.
So I'm
Hmm.
not going to get him in trouble for YouTubing. Um, so I was teleworking and Ann works third shift. So
Hmm.
that we weren't going anywhere. So I think we're still in that rut of we're not going anywhere. We're doing the books
Hmm.
as opposed to like going on vacation or something. Yeah. But that's all right.
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's where I'm at right now too. We work. I work in healthcare, and we're
You and I both do the same thing, I think. Similar.
yes, very similar. And so we have to make sure everyone has their appointments, and everyone still has that. And like you never know when an idea is going to come to you. And are you on the third book right now, or on the fourth book?
Um, we're on the third book. It's written, but it's not finished, and it's got to go through major, do all the editing and stuff and adding of things. The fourth book, Anne did start the fourth book. She's on a mission with her not feeling well. She's just writing. But then we also have the nonfiction. So we're in like 3 different books right now. So it's like, okay, what story are we talking about? What did we write in this book? Because it's just a sequence.
Right. You don't want it to compare it to that one. Are you?
Well, no, they all just run hand in
Mhm,
hand. So like where the first book ends off, we leave the first chapter of the second
mhm.
book is at the end. Did you read that part? The first
Yes.
The first
Yes, I read
chapter
it
of the
all the way
next
to
one.
the end and about the authors. I love how you guys put yourselves in there, and it tells a little bit about you guys, how you
Yeah.
met, and I love the idea how Shirley introduced you both, and so I had an
Yeah, that
idea
was
how.
really a
Mhm.
strange thing because Shirley just popped in on my FaceTime and I didn't know who she was. But her being a psychic, she knew she had to connect me with Anne. Eventually, that happened. That didn't happen right away. Mostly, she just wanted me to know that I had edited a book for another PI Paul is Dead book,
Mhm.
and the boys were happy about it. So she had to pop in and tell me that.
Uh-huh.
So
Oh, that is so sweet.
it was very freaky. Yeah,
But I
yeah,
know that once you started writing ideas, it just started rolling and rolling, rolling like that together. So I bet that was
yeah.
just the neatest thing to do
When
that.
we just started, like I said, we started with the first chapter, and of course, we're telling Paul's story.
Hmm.
So, we're into the first chapter of John wanting to know where's Paul? Where is
Hmm.
Paul? So um, it just sort of took off. It really just took off of life of its own. We
Well,
were
that is
just the
so
scribers. It
But
just
it's a
sort of,
good
like you said,
story,
like
though.
you said, you can't put it down, but we couldn't
No.
put it down and we just kept flowing with it.
Yes.
It just sort of evolved.
Yeah. And it's like, and then I saw that chapter. I was like, oh, that chapter's over. But I wanted to continue more with that chapter. What else is going to happen? And you continue with that one. It's like, oh, okay. I know that one now. And then it kept on. I was like, oh, okay. And then
Yeah.
and then it ended, and I was like, okay, I remember I have book 2 now, so I'm gonna be reading that one. So and then that one's gonna end, and I'm like,
Oh, I'm
oh,
so
I have to
happy
wait for
you
book
like it.
3. Then now I have to
Yeah.
wait for book 3
You're going
after
to have
that
to wait
one.
for book 3 because I said we were putting these out so fast that
Mhm.
we're not having enough time to really market what we've already done. And now
Mhm.
we're going into the next one. So, but we're trying to, we're going to go back and forth. That's the
Mhm.
funny thing about writing them with time. You can go back and tell stories because we do need to sort of skip some years here.
Yes.
Book three is in the late 80s, early 90s, late
Mhm.
80s. And we need to get up to when George has his knifing attack and
Yes.
some of that stuff that's going on.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, and
But
then it
go ahead.
just no, no, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say the first
Mhm.
book's mostly Paul's story
Yes.
and how Billy came about. And for people who don't know, Billy Shears, Billy Shepherd, Billy
Mhm.
Campbell, we don't know what his name is.
Mhm.
I named him Billy Mackenzie. Anne says, what do you want to name him? And I was watching Outlander at the same time.
Mhm.
A lot of people think he's Scottish because they hear his broken accent occasionally.
Yes.
And Father Mackenzie from Eleanor Rigby. So it was just sort of like the Mackenzie sort of seemed to make sense to me.
Yeah, so
Uh,
I was gonna ask you about that, because how you came up with that name, and because he
yeah.
couldn't get his accent straight. Uh, they couldn't decide. He's like, "What are you, Scottish? You're supposed to be English like us." And the,
Yeah.
mm-hmm,
Yeah. He occasionally, if you listen to some, I'm not very good with that
mm-hmm.
on the accent stuff, but a couple
I
people who
try,
are,
but that's hard.
they've been hearing it. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, went with it. Some
Yeah.
people think he was from Canada. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we know someday. That's the
Yeah.
thing. We're bringing this out. It's a fictional series. People can believe it. They cannot believe it. There's plenty of Beatle information, Beatle stories in here as we're going through their timelines.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully one day we're all going to have an actual revelation of why this all occurred. Why were there so many Beatle clues starting in the fall of 67 when he comes back from Africa?
Right.
Billy
And
comes back from Africa. So Paul has his house. He just moved in on Fourthland or on Cavendish, and he just renovated that house. And all of a sudden, somebody else comes in, has Mal Evans, their roadie, fire the butler and the maid, who Paul had great relationship with, not no issues that anybody has heard of. But of course, it's because they were bringing in the replacement.
They probably knew him too well to know
Oh
the
my gosh,
difference.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So they had to fire them.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's the total change of emaciation from Paul to Billy, longer
Yes.
head.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah. And then also too, not only that, the difference in the mouth and the teeth, you could tell a big difference in that too.
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
bit, a little
Mm-hmm.
bit.
Yeah. And
I
then,
mean, I've gone through so many of the
oh yes,
pictures.
definitely. Yeah. And you could see the mouth difference, the nose. I mean, even though there
Are
was,
you able to share a screen? I can pull up some picture
yes,
comparisons
go
if
ahead.
anybody wants to. Can they see these things, or is this all on
Let's
radio? We
see.
can talk about them.
Can you
It's all right
probably,
if you can't. It's fine.
can you see that? I don't know if they can or not. Let's see.
It's fine. I
see. Probably. I don't know if it was able to let us, but
that's all right. I don't want to mess anything up, but sometime we can share a screen. I've been working on a PowerPoint of
yeah.
side-by-side images,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's amazing once you actually know and you start
Mm-hmm.
looking for these things. But
Yeah.
Paul had a round skull. He
Yes.
had rounder face.
Mm-hmm.
Billy's is longer. So
Yeah, I remember that because right
longer.
there, the chin like that too didn't match very well either. Even though the supposedly the plastic surgeon, as they said, tried to do as much well as a good job, but they had to have him in a hurry
Yeah.
to be in
And
there
it's
with
so
the
hard
group.
to say he was probably a lookalike to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
How much plastic surgery he had to have, I don't know. The ears
Not
don't
much,
match.
but they said, but still enough to they had to hurry up to do it right away
Right,
because they
right.
needed him in there right away.
Well, or was he being worked on?
Yes.
We don't know these
No,
things. These
we
are things
don't.
that
Mm-hmm.
we have him placed that he's watching them. He's learning about Paul. He's learning his
Mm-hmm.
mannerisms so that he can replace him. Did that happen? No, I don't know
No.
that,
Mm-mm.
but it could have. But we don't know that.
Right. Yeah, we don't know to this day what's gonna, what was going on, if he had already been a lookalike.
Yeah, we don't
Mm-hmm.
know. He could have been somebody who did look like him, who
Mm-hmm.
already was around.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he's a musician.
Mm-hmm.
He's a
Or like,
talented musician. I'm not going to say, obviously.
right, or like you said, dressing up like in a policeman, it's going to the concerts, like you said, maybe he was still disguised as that too. We don't know.
Yeah, well, we have him being
Mm-hmm.
disguised as a
Mm-hmm.
reporter,
Mm-hmm.
as a policeman, as
Right.
any way that he could stay close to them during the tour,
Yes.
to
And
cause a little mischief, and as well
Mm-hmm.
as to be observant and knowing what's going on.
and that could have still happened too. And
Yeah,
heart, and how you were saying that he had a heart murmur as well. Paul did.
yeah,
And
yeah. He had rheumatic fever when he was younger,
Mm-hmm.
and had that issue. So that's the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Paul was not he ended up liking pot,
Yes.
but he had anxiety. So when they
Yes.
got introduced to the marijuana, he was happy about that.
Yes.
But that just helped him chill. But he
Mm-hmm.
knew he wasn't into the harder drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Billy, of course, then turned around and promoted it.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And also too, it's like, have they checked to make sure that this guy has a heart murmur? Has he allowed
They
them to
haven't.
do it?
Well, I'm sure
You know.
that
Mm-hmm.
his doc. Well, who knows?
Yeah.
You don't know who knows what.
Right. But due to doctor-patient confidentiality, of course he's going to say yes, he has a heart murmur. But has he released the records? Has he allowed that to happen? We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, and so we'll never know to this day. And
Yeah.
also, it's going to be hard to say. So, like you said, what we're going to find out when the autopsy
What are
is
we going
going
to find out?
Mhm.
A lot of people think that once he's gone, he's passed, that things will start maybe dominoing.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of how the way I don't want to have this comparison because it's different, but we talk about Jimmy Savile in the book.
Yes.
Oh Lordy, there's a hot mess, right?
Yes.
So Jimmy Savile, having been the DJ for the BBC and had all
Mm-hmm.
the TV shows and whatever, was the Jim will fix it
Yes.
show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he he turned out to be the biggest pedophile
Yes.
of them all, and the arranger of the clandestine meetings with other
Mm-hmm.
predators. So that all didn't come out until after he died in 2012.
No.
But I mean, then it was just like onslaught.
Yes. And
Yeah,
that's what th-
oh my gosh, he was
yeah.
crazy.
I loved how you portrayed Paul as a loving, caring person and how he wanted to help everyone. And I know that's how he was in real life, and that's how you portrayed him in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And giving him something to, and I believe that too, because I know that he was out there helping people and wanting to make a difference and making the world a better place. And that's what he was wanting to do. And that's what he was actually as well, younger in life. He was always that person. From what his dad was saying, he was always wanting to save the little bitty animals or anything, or, growing up. And
Right.
that's how he's always been. And then this one here, he didn't really care, really. Like you said, he was just promoting the opposite. You could
Yeah,
tell.
when it came to it, we got into the Monterey Pop Festival where he
Yes.
was one of the promoters of that event, which was pretty large, uh, outside rock concert for the time.
Hmm.
When was that? 67? I can't remember. I think it was summer 67. Um, Paul wouldn't have been out there promoting the Kool-Aid laced drinks.
Right.
I think that was another operation, for the alphabets.
Right.
Let it go at that. People read the book. It's the alphabets are
Exactly.
involved.
You have
The
to read the
alphabets
book
are
to find
involved
out
all
more.
through. Huh?
You have to read the book to find out more.
Yeah, their
Pick up
alphabets are
that book.
there. But I
Hmm.
mean, George went to the pop festival and left because he was disgusted by what he saw. He thought he
Yes.
was going to see some kind of kumbaya festival type thing, and it wasn't. It was a bunch of drugged out
Yes.
kids because they, yeah,
Yeah. It's not like it used to be, back then. And, that's all they pretty much promoted. And they wanted to go to a place where you could just go ahead and sing, entertain the people, go home, go to the next concert, things like that. And when they went out there, it's just like, okay, this is what we're singing to. People are not going to understand. They're not going to understand our music. They're not here to see us. They're just here to party. And that's
yeah,
not what they wanted to be. They wanted to be out there to perform their music. People, come on, listen to our music. This is what we're wanting to do. And I heard also that each album that they had, they had a hidden message in each one of their albums. They ended up
Oh,
putting a hidden
you
message.
mean after Paul died?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, more than
Yes.
a hidden message. There are multiple hidden
Every
messages.
single song, I'm pretty much, I heard
Every
had.
album,
Hmm.
most of the albums, even in their individual careers,
Yes.
have PID clues in them. So Paul is dead for everybody who didn't
Oh,
know
absolutely.
PID. That's the P. I don't like that, but that's what we're
Mm-mm.
stuck with.
Oh yeah, it's always going to be like that. And I think that ever since he died, I think John, ever since then, John was not the same. You
John
could
wasn't the
tell.
same.
You could
John,
tell.
that's when John started in with the hard drugs, with the heroin.
Hmm.
He started he was just not there.
No, he
There's
was
some
not at
pictures
all.
of him sitting on a stool, just like a rag. And my granddaughter will like this, like a rag doll. He was just he was just like forlorn, depressed, hanging there. Yeah.
Yeah, he was just like didn't care about anything anymore. He just didn't. He wanted to do his music, and that was it.
Well,
And
and that's when things started unraveling for him. He and his wife, the drugs, the whatever.
yeah,
Yeah. And I think at some point he started feeling like in his mind, whether that Billy was Paul. I think he sort of tried to go there, but the clues were still in the records.
And what did he think? Might as well just do this because we're going to have to do it anyway, and let's
Well,
just
he had to do it
deal with
anyway.
it.
I mean,
Hmm.
but now I'm going to leave all these clues. And there's, I've heard there's over 200. I haven't
Yes.
actually counted them, but I that might be another book we end up doing. Who knows?
There you go,
all
another
the
book.
all the clues, and all
There you go.
the lyrics and stuff. I did break down the lyrics into A Day in the Life. Ann and I went through that, and there's some other lyrics we'll probably, we have to be careful with what we do. It's sourcing everything, but
Well, you can always do a disclaimer and say, this is just
well,
disclaimer kind of
it
thing.
is. Well, there's disclaimers. There's disclaimers on our YouTube channel. There's disclaimers on in the book. It's a fictional book.
Right?
It's all fiction.
Yeah, people, it's all fiction,
There's
but
no truth in any of it. No.
it's fun to
None.
read though, because this is what you would think you would want it to be like,
Yeah.
It's it's fiction is the places of what people of how you want them to be. It's not a reality, but it's what you would
Well,
wish life should be like.
yeah, except for the crap that we had him go through. And in this time where we're now dealing with a lot of SAR things going on that people are starting to become aware of, the children and whatnot. But because of the circumstances back then and the Crown and what was going on, like I said, Jimmy Savile was Prince Charles's marriage advisor.
Yes.
Marriage counselor to Diana. He actually met with her to counsel her on her marriage. Seriously?
Right.
That's
of
just
all
not
people.
seriously. Well, that's because, just put your mind to it. But we get into, so we're bringing forth what the governments do in the book series, what the shadow government does, what the government does, their operations. Obviously, we're writing about them because they've already been brought out to light.
Right.
Operation Paperclip, like I said, the Monterey Festival that was brought to light. The second book, we get into the Montauk Project a little bit in the very beginning of that book. So that's something, again, that's mind altering, working on kids to try and fracture their brains, so that they can then become a Manchurian candidate down the road. It's sick, but we felt like we need to bring all this up at the same time we're bringing out Paul's story.
Absolutely, because a lot of that is really not fiction, because it's really happening right now, going on.
It's really happening now, and the thing is, it's happening now, but it happened then.
Oh, absolutely.
And since it happened then, we felt we need to expose what was going on back then, as well as knowing that it's relevant right now.
Oh, yes. A lot of stuff is, it's funny how everything's coming up to the surface now than when it was hitting back then. Everything's coming up. And it's like, no matter what books you read or write, it may be fiction, but it's really reality.
Right.
Fiction is reality.
Fiction is based in is based in reality. It's just up to the person who's reading it to discern what they want to believe and what they don't.
Yes. And especially
sometimes, and I'll tell you what.
Yes.
I told Ann we have to go through the books and write our own little cheat sheet.
Right.
I get so involved in the story that you start believing it yourself.
Yes.
That's real.
Right.
This is a real part. This isn't a real part. I don't know.
Yeah, because
is it fact or fiction? I don't know.
Well, I mean, a lot of it too, it's like you start writing it and then all of a sudden you look at it and you're like, oh my God, that is true. That is really what's happening. Oh my goodness, and that's what you see.
Yeah.
A lot of that is what you see. And you're like, oh my God, that's really happening. That's really happened. And, and you're like, oh my gosh, that really happened later on. And, and you're like, oh my gosh, this person really did do that. Or, that really happened. And
it's terrible.
It is. It is because, like you said, earlier too, it's like, the pain of losing a child, you don't want to have to go through that. And then or a parliament
Having a
losing,
child go missing like that and not knowing what's happened to them.
and not knowing what's going
The
on.
amount of children that go missing in our
Hmm.
country alone, but worldwide, is staggering.
Right.
It's
And I guess they're wanting to see the book covers again.
well, they're up on the okay. So
Yeah. Hmm.
this is the first book. Whoops,
Hmm. Right.
where am I at?
There you are. It's perfect.
That was perfect. And then
Yes.
here's the second book.
Hmm. Yes.
Whoops, I'm on the wrong
There
side.
you go. That's the second book.
That's the second book.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to keep the same format. We're using
Mm-hmm.
Paul's head. That's
Mm-hmm.
from A Hard Day's Night and I Love Her,
Mm-hmm.
and blackened him out, and it's just going to be the colors here are going to change, and of course
yes.
the title and the picture in the middle. For the
It's,
like I the third book is done. The nonfiction book is the covers are done. So yeah.
so you're gonna write about each one of them individually and then of them together, or
What do you mean?
are you gonna write about each one of them separately?
Each one of
The band members, the Beatles.
No, it's a cohesive timeline.
Okay.
So where you stopped,
Mm-hmm.
John was, everybody. We're not telling anything out of tail.
Right.
The
No, I
books.
don't want to tell the end. I don't want to spoil that part of
But
it.
they already know that John gets killed. I mean, that's
Yeah,
that's
well, of
something
course
that
that
happens.
happens, but we don't want
So
to
in
tell
the
what happens later
second
on.
book,
Mm-hmm.
we do a deep dive into what actually happened
Mm-hmm.
with John's assassination.
Right. Yes. And just because
And
that's my
I
last name,
definitely,
people, no,
huh?
my last name's Chapman, but no relation, people, to that.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Right.
Well, and there again, I think he was mind controlled.
I think so too.
And we get into that whole aspect, where the guards were, what was going on. To us, it's very obvious there was a second shooter.
Yes, I believe that as well. And it could have been the same one that I think that was met with Paul as well. I think it has it all be the same people.
No, well, yeah, but Paul's death was over in the UK. It was, whether it was England or north of Wales, it was, right there in that area, that we think anyway. Right. That's what we wrote. Right. So that's what we were going to buy.
But yeah, I haven't read the book yet, so people, you haven't either, so you have to pick up the book to find out.
Right, you have to read the book. But as far as John, I mean, that's here in the States, yes. In Dakota. So we have a lot of information in the next book on that.
Oh, absolutely. And I cannot wait to read the second one and the third one when it comes out and so forth, when you have the rest of them out. Because inquiring minds want to know, as they say.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Yes.
Yeah. So as we're going through the series, we're going through the years, but then we can go backwards. So we can still bring in Beatles stories and their encounters and their interrelationship with each other.
Absolutely.
Through John telling
his part of the stories and
part of the story. Yeah, I was going to say something, but
don't follow the book.
No, well, you know what? I think I'm going to, because he's a major character, and he actually is Paul. So Paul and Megan have a son, and John ends up adopting him because Paul is gone. And so he's raising his son, and we have given the son the attributes of the father. Yes. So as you're going through the series, it's very Paulish. That's all, like, Paulisms, Paulish ways. He is very much his father's son.
Yes.
So as he's growing up, John's telling him stories. George tells him stories. So we're going through that whole process.
That would be good to find out what.
Yeah, because we can't keep going through the years and not keep it relevant. It's all still focused on what happened to Paul.
Right. and the son is going to be up to the son to find out what's going on, and
The
the
son is on a mission to reclaim his birthright,
right.
to find out what happened. And there are children of Paul's that were in that situation,
Yes.
Um,
And of
we know.
course, if there's like a life insurance policy, you can't claim it because, of course, you didn't die,
Well, you're not
supposedly.
acknowledged. You're
Yes.
not acknowledged as being a child. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I know of a couple of people, and don't think that they really care about that aspect.
No.
It's just the fact of that's their father.
Yes.
So Paul in the book, Paul's son, Paul Lennon,
Mm-hmm.
is, on that mission of trying to be able to claim his birthright.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that was with anybody, really. I mean, you have to want to claim your birthright, and there's just so
Yeah,
much that he has to go through just to even say, "Hey, that's my dad, but can you prove it?" Yes, I can, but how can you prove it? Supposedly, you're not the son of him, and but then it goes through a lot of turmoil, and we'll just have to
right.
find out as we read the second book and so forth.
Yeah. The second book, you love the first book
Hmm.
because it's
I did.
Paul's story. And we're hearing from Paul, like Angelo in a previous interview, he said, "Oh my gosh, you guys actually told Paul's story first person."
Hmm.
Because we did. He wrote a journal and he journaled
Yes.
this. And so we have his story. But when we are going further into these stories and whatever, um, it's very, I forgot where I was going with that, but it's very, goes into the detail of
Yeah,
it.
detail by detail. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And what I loved about it too is like he told it from his heart, not so emotional, and how he felt right from the beginning, and how much he loved Megan, the character, and he knew he was going to be a father already, but of course they couldn't tell anyone at the
Right.
time, and
Right.
he already kind of knew that he wasn't going to be able to see his son grow up, and he knew he was going to have a son, but in here,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what I loved about that, because he already knew that he
He
was going to be
knew.
a father.
And the thing
Mhm.
is, he did know, I think he knew he had a couple children,
Yes. Hmm.
so um, this is something that we feel like we needed to bring out.
Yes. And I just fell in love with that because it was so emotional. I was like tearing up. I was like, okay, I gotta get tissues
Well,
probably
wait,
for the
you'll
next one.
fall in love with the son.
Yes.
He is his father all over again.
Yes. And then how he was like, but I look like this and I look like that. And then John's other son said, but it's okay. You're still brother. You're still my brother. And I was like, oh, wait, I need to get tissue. Hold on. I had to put my little tablet down. I was like, wait, hold on a second. I need. So it's so
Yeah.
emotional. It's like an emotional roller coaster. You want to get mad, you get happy, but you get so sad you want to cry. So
A roller coaster is funny because that's how we said in the describe the book. If you look in
Mhm.
the Amazon thing, it's the roller coaster ride
Yes.
because it's the ups and the downs.
Hmm. And it's so emotional, and I love the way you captured it too, because it's not only told his father too was just, he's like, what am I gonna do without my son? And but he thanked him for letting him see his grandson. He's like, what? This is my grandson. He was just so happy that he has
Yeah.
something, a legacy as well. But
Yeah.
at the same time,
He's,
just,
yeah.
and he's like, I can't believe I lost a wife, I lost my son. What do I have? But he says, but here, this is what you have. He's like, what? This, my grandson? And he thought that was all. And it was just so like, what? You brought me this? Thank you so much. And he says, you'll always be a part of my family, Johnny. You'll always be a part of my family.
Yeah.
So, in other words, he'll
John and
always,
Paul were brothers.
yes.
That's for sure. And that's one of the clues.
Mm-hmm.
John and Paul were brothers.
Yes.
They finished each other's thoughts,
Yes.
then and merged their writing, the writing of the music. And the disconnect happened at the time that Paul died. Disconnect happened. If Paul didn't die, I want to know what the heck happened,
Exactly.
because that's not the same personality, the same
No.
person.
It's like, okay. And also, I think too, it's I think the time that Paul died, I think John felt it too at that time, because you know how you can feel it. You have that strong
Oh yeah,
emotional.
he had the, well, I think in, if you look at it as how we wrote it,
Hmm.
he had things happening to him.
Yes.
He knew, and he wasn't towing the line.
No.
You know, once you became a member of the British Empire, then you have to do their bidding. And
Yes,
we
you
get
do.
into a little bit of the occult, Illuminati, Masonry things with this aspect. Um, by not towing the line and not doing what you're told and not being a servant to the crown is
Yes.
treason. And treason's punishable by death.
Absolutely. And he didn't want to do what they said. He said, "Absolutely not. I'm not doing what you said."
He's
And
not going to do it. Paul
no.
was Paul was a very willful, stubborn person. God
Yeah.
bless him. He was like,
Yeah.
he's like, I'm not, yeah, I'm not doing that.
I'm not doing what you're telling me. I'm going to do what
It's
I
the
want to
same
do.
thing where there's people out there that try to say the Beatles didn't write their own music and that they were given music and they were just nothing. They were like, you know, a glorified whatever. And it's so far from the truth. You know,
Yeah.
they wrote their own music, for goodness sakes.
I think I honestly I think that they did write their own music, but of course, anybody's going to say no, they didn't because they want to take credit for it.
Well, no, this is
So.
just
Hmm.
more of not wanting,
Yeah.
to diminish the early Beatles to
Hmm.
elevate the later
Hmm.
Beatles.
Oh,
So all of a
definitely.
sudden the later Beatles can write because now Billy's a part of the scene.
Oh, definitely.
And that makes, it's just bunk.
Yeah, and then how John would get mad too is like, I can't believe he took over everything of his. That's not right. That should not be, taken
Yeah,
over. And that's another thing
exactly.
too, that he did not like that. So and I understand that because that's Paul's stuff, and he didn't want nobody touching Paul's stuff. Um
Right.
and then how, you know, that's my brother's stuff. How could you touch that? Leave it alone. And then when he went to go to the house, everything was just trashed pretty much, and probably gone through to see
Well,
what
and
else
that's
was
where I
at.
started to say how Paul had just
Hmm.
moved into that house. He spent a year remodeling
Yes.
it,
Hmm.
and he had just moved in that and then went on tour. So,
Hmm.
in the spring of 66. So now we're in the fall of 66. And then the changes that happened
Yes.
afterwards are,
Hmm.
why are you changing the decor? I mean, Paul
Exactly.
had pretty much set things that he did.
Hmm.
Tradition, he was it's tradition, his socks. He liked wearing black socks.
Yes.
He didn't like to shave, but he didn't like to he didn't want scruff. I mean,
Hmm.
all the little things that were his aspects, people have to sit there and think, oh, that's true. That's something that he did, but this one's not.
Right. Yeah, he didn't like that either. And he had a certain way he had done things, and then all of a sudden everybody started noticing that he had a different way of doing things, and I was like, no, that's not the way he used to do things.
Right.
And that's another clue too, right there.
It is a clue.
Mhm.
I think Billy's ambidextrous.
Mhm.
Obviously he can play left-handed, but I
Yes.
think he's more comfortable right-handed,
Yes.
and he does a lot of things where he's using his right hand where Paul
Mhm.
hadn't done that. Now, I mean,
Exactly.
they both, Paul would smoke with both hands, but I mean, then you're going to smoke away from somebody else that you're not going to have your cigarette like near somebody's clothes or something. But
Exactly. Because I'm left-handed, and if somebody came to take my place, they're gonna have to be left-handed, and they're also their right-handed. They're like, wait a minute, no, she's been left-handed for most of her adult
yeah,
life. You
well,
know.
it's the same thing. It's like, how do you
Mhm.
pick up a guitar, and do you pick it up the same way all the time and whatever?
Exactly. Exactly.
And as many times as you say, okay, I've got it, I've done it,
Mhm.
I'm doing it right, then there's the one or two times where you pick it
Mhm.
up the wrong way, and it's like, that's not your normal way of what you
No.
do. This isn't the way you wear. This isn't the way you wear. Billy is a taller.
Yes.
Um, I can't. A lot of people, we get into the debates on the height, how
Mhm.
tall or how short the Beatles were versus how tall they really were, and whatever. Billy was is taller,
Yes.
and when he's playing his guitar, it's lower,
Yes.
and when Paul's playing his guitar, it's more up towards his lower waist, at lower abdomen. Billy's is more hips. You can see the difference in the length of the neck, of the frets and stuff. People that want to pay attention, just pay attention.
And also, didn't they say also that every time that they did an interview, Paul would say something to Ringo and they just start laughing out of the
Oh
blue.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden that would stop. They noticed that he wouldn't do that
yeah.
anymore.
All of a sudden it became a serious thing.
Yes.
Well, the interview stopped.
Yes.
The interview stopped, but the horseplay that they used to have and the camaraderie that they had, that's hard to fake.
Oh, yeah.
That
Absolutely.
wasn't there when you see them going to India, or when you see them. When they heard Brian died, they were in Wales at the Maharishi's event, and Billy took Jane and left with her before the others. I don't think Paul would have done that.
No.
He would have been just as concerned and wanting to talk to John and what are we going to do, not trying to think, what am I going to do? Because now I'm Paul McCartney and our manager's dead.
Right.
It's
like we need to do something together as a group.
But he left them there, and went back to London by himself.
Wow.
So then you start thinking all the different remarks that get made. There's just a lot out there for people if they really want to know the truth.
That's awful. It's just like, it should be as a group conversation instead like a what am I going to do kind of thing. Exactly. It's not like you're a one-man band kind of thing. You're a group band. You're together as, four, not one.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Because if you were together with your author and you're like, what am I going to do? It's like, no, what we're going to do. Are we going to choose this color together? You're not going to say, okay, well, we're going to use this color. You're going to talk to each other and say, what color are we going to use for the book? It's going to be like that. And it's just hard to do that because, the bands have broken up because of that. There was this one group, Alabama, a country group. They broke up because of that. Because there was supposed to be four of them. And he's like, no, it's just three of us. But they all four got awards over the years. And that was hard for them. And it was just hard.
Yeah.
And what do you have coming up besides that book?
What do you mean?
Are the books coming up besides that?
There's enough there with these books. So, we're just continuing on in the series. That's going to be enough to keep us occupied for years.
For years? There you go.
Well, because once we get to George being knifed and then his death, then we're getting into the revelation of the 2000s. There's a lot of people woke up to this Paul is dead again.
Yes.
In 2010, 2013, in the last decade. And so since there's still two surviving members, there's still a lot to write and to reflect on. And Paul Lennon's going to still be searching all this out.
Yeah.
So
who knows?
Continue. We don't know where it's going to go and how it's actually what's going to happen down there, but it's already in history. So it's historical fiction.
Yeah. Hopefully
we have a game plan, so to speak.
Right. Hopefully we'll get to have Anne on the show soon with us. And
I'm hoping everybody just, again, we're not saying words on air that I try not to for people, but she had, being a healthcare worker, she had to do the jabs.
Oh yeah.
And she had a terrible reaction last fall.
I had a coworker had the same thing, and of course she wasn't able to see the computer very well, to where she could not see it very well, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And she had to quit her job.
Yeah. Anne had to quit her job too. She went into anaphylactic shock, and she was in a hospital when they left her. it's I don't want to get into it. She has a whole thing going on with it, but
Yeah,
it's been very hard because people don't realize that this kind of stuff affects your health, and it affects
does.
your ability to be you.
Yes.
So
And so I know that she's writing a lot to kind of help you with
she
the book
is
and everything, and
writing a lot.
just let her know that let her know that we want her to, we wish her the best. Hopefully she'll get to talk soon, or if she just wants to give us a statement next time that we have you
Yeah.
back on the show for
I'm sure
book 3. And
well, I'm sure we'll get her on before all that.
Oh yeah, of
all that
course.
happens, because there is so much to talk about.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I can't believe it's been a fast hour already.
Oh, really? Already?
Already. So let's let everyone know how they can find you on social media.
Ann and I are both on this social media, as far as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm not very good at Instagram and Twitter. I still don't. It's still foreign to me. I still like Facebook because it's so easy. We're have our own website, shadowofabaseman.com, so that everybody can go to shadowofabaseman.com and get links to our YouTube channel or to the books. We put this book in Spanish. So if you have a Spanish audience that wants to, read in Spanish, there's a lot of Spanish speaking people that are in the realization of what happened to Paul.
Oh, yes.
So the website has that, all 3 books, the links over to Amazon, the links over to YouTube. There's the reviews are there. It's everything sort of under one roof. And it's easier than trying to find the link on Amazon.
Oh, absolutely. If you have a chance, everyone, please go get these books, because they are amazing books. And like I said, I could not put it down. I'm ready to read book 2. It's a roller coaster ride. It'll have you laughing, crying, getting mad, but you're like, yay!
You become part of the characters, and you feel like you're right there walking with them in their place.
Absolutely, you do. And it's a wonderful books. They're wonderful books. You can't put them down.
If you go into the first, when you go into Amazon and the Shadow of a Baseman, we've picked up a publisher here in the last couple months, and she went and got us some great reviews from some people, some renowned people. And they're all in the beginning of the open. When you open the first look inside, you can see those.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you go to shadowofabaseman.com, you can link over to our YouTube channel, where you can see me with Angelo and Shirley, because I have those videos up on that channel as well. And Ann and I, in our interviews, and we're discussing different aspects of what's going on. Our last interview was before she, was not feeling as well. We did a thing with what did Linda know and when did she know it?
Yes.
And a lot of people wanted to know about that one.
Oh, absolutely. And they're great books, everyone. And I want to thank you so much for being on the show with me tonight and co-hosting, while Angela was supposed to be on vacation, not joining in, but you know him. And
I knew he was going to pop in.
Yeah, he told me he was, but I didn't believe him. But I guess he did. And again, thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And Thursday night, we have Mike Messier join me on Thursday night. We'll discuss all his works that he's been doing lately. Filmmaker, author, pretty much all around great guy. He will discuss everything that he's been up to. And I thank everyone for joining us tonight. You can find us here on What's the Buzz podcast. What's the Buzz? Also on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, anywhere you can find us. And I know Angela will be joining us next week to tell me probably what a bad job I did.
You're fine.
So who knows?
Hey, you're new at that, and I'm new at this on this end. I'm still a nervous wreck when I get in front of doing these things, but whatever.
So I thank everyone for joining us. And Mary, if you want to stick around with me here,
sure.
I'm going to go ahead and say goodnight, everyone.